Okay, looks like we're ready. Hello to anyone and everyone out there. Here at HOFA-College, we are going to present you a mix webinar tutorial. They've asked me to do a Metal Hardrock mix, and yeah, that's right up my alley. So I've decided, after asking Gus G, if I could use some of his material, because we did some good recordings not too long ago, and I know my way around the recordings well enough. I've decided to take a song from Gus G's solo album, his last one, 2017, 2018, we recorded it. This song is called Don't Tread on Me. It was the first single he released from his solo album. It's metal, it's rock, it's a little bit of everything, and yeah, and I've got it here. So we're gonna start with it. I am not starting from zero on my mix. It would simply take too long, but I have bypassed everything. I've left some routing, and the channels are all there, pre-prepared, just to make things go easier and quicker. So what I would usually do starting a mix is actually just get my stuff on track. I've separated here in my pool, in different folders, all my instrument groups, just because it's easier that way. I'm going to start by pulling everything out, and at the same time I'm going to mute them all, just because I don't want to hear it all. Now I'm going to start putting my tracks in the respective positions. Here's a hi-hat. There's probably a faster way to do this, but I don't have one right now. I want to mention that I am mixing on headphones, something I absolutely do not enjoy at all. But because we don't have any other possibility to do this any other way, I'm going to have to give it a shot. I don't think I have ever, no, I have never, ever mixed on headphones, except for maybe for fun, but it was never really very important for me. So as I pull out all these tracks and bore you all to death with my stories, yeah, I think I should concentrate before I put stuff in the wrong space. I'm going to not use that track for now. What we got here, room far and room mono. Let me save myself some space here. And yeah, I've got a lot of tracks here. The drums were played by Will Hunt, and lots of respect. It was definitely very well played. Big fan of his work, and he really proved himself in this recording, if I do say so. Right, where are we? So this is a 57 over there. Let me see, I'm getting this all mixed up. That's a condenser. What is that? That's a 201. I use a lot of microphones. Oops, I did not want to do that. I use a lot of microphones on the snare because I like the options, but I will explain that as well as we go. I think there's got to be 20-something tracks of drums here. I don't know. I can't even remember. And that's not even a big one. This is a pretty standard setup for me. So we got here sub and our toms. All right. Okay, I've got everything as far as drums are concerned lined up on tracks. And now I'm going to continue by pulling out the bass, which I also have in a folder. I have a DI and I have an amp. Yes, that's right. It's always different when you're working on somebody else's computer. And although I do work on Mac as well, I must say I actually prefer working Cubase on a PC, but I don't think anybody really cares about that. Let me mute these as well. Don't need those. So what I'm doing, like I said, is just laying this stuff out in track. The reason I'm doing it this way is just because let's assume, which isn't the case, that I have never heard this song before. So before I start a mix, I don't really like to, start dialing in the kick or dialing in whatever, to be honest. I want to first, get a feel for the song and see what I've got here. So I want to make a kind of a standing mix or I'm going to say passive mix, where I'm just basically getting to know the song, so to say. I can pull these all out at the same time. So I do that by quite simply, by putting everything on track. And there's a lot of tracks, so it's going to be nice and boring to watch me pull all this stuff out and try to explain why I'm doing it this way. And remember all the keys, the hot keys here. So where are we now? Demo, bridge, clean guitars. Yeah, right. These are actually guitars from the demo that we decided were quite cool, and we use them as well for the production. So we got here main 2 tracks, so that was main 2 and harmony solo. Almost done. So many tracks. So I'll get right to that. All right. I've got a message here. I guess I'll read that first. How's your speed experience with Cubase on Windows versus Mac? For me, it feels like Cubase works faster on Windows, of course, having the same hardware. I really think it's a matter of getting used to, remembering that your Command key and your Alt key do different things depending on how you've got your keyboard set up. Also, setting up your hotkeys the way you want to have them, that makes quite a difference too to your speed. For me, if I work on a normal Mac, it's not so different, but in this case, I'm working on a laptop where, for example, instead of hitting F3 to pull up the mixing board, I got to remember to hit this button, Fn, and then F3 so I can see that. We're on a Mac, on a PC, you just hit F3 and there you go. So something's a little different, but other than that, it's not so different from performance or anything. Everything's where it should be as I want it, so that's all that really matters. So it's not a big difference to me. Again, I'm muting all this stuff, and I'll explain why as I go. But first, let me continue by pulling in these tracks. Keyboards are next, and of course, on a Gustry production, we don't want many keyboards, and yeah, that's the way it should be. Have I got that all separated right? Demo versus, yeah, okay. All right. So, last up, vocals. So let me close some of these folders, make it a little bit tidy. What we got here? We got choirs, lots of choirs. I'll pull those in first because it's easy. And I think I'm on the right spot. I hope I'm on the right spot. Then we've got main and a double. Okay. Looks good. And then we've got a harmony, and I think that is everything, yeah? That's it. Okay. There we go. So we have our tracks pulled out. We won't hear anything because it's all muted. So let's get right to it. I'm going to unmute the drums, and I'm going to start pulling in the sound. As I said, I do not have anything on. Everything is bypassed. I have literally turned off every and anything except my effects. That's something I also want to point out. I often have a basic setup of effects, let's say a rack of effects that I like to prepare when I start a mix. I'll have a typical vocal reverb or a choir reverb, maybe a small room or guitar room in this case, a quarter echo, a quarter ping pong echo, a spacey kind of an echo, and my favorite plugin for guitars and widening is this H3000 plugin, which is simulating the microshift preset in the H3000 hardware unit from Eventide. I've also got a couple of echoes set up here, and I think I've got another harmonizer for God knows what reason, but it did something at one point. So I've left it all in there. Right. Let's get rid of this mixing board, if I can remember which buttons to push. Nope, see, I pushed the wrong buttons. Okay. We'll push play. Okay. Everything is on. I've got a room mono. This is a wide room. I've got two overheads on the back and the sides because it was a very wide cymbal setup. And I see now that I've actually had to use more of the overhead sides than the typical back microphones. But that's irrelevant as well. Hi-hat, ride, toms. Toms are all being grouped. I've got these all prepared as well so that I don't have to get into it. These are unimportant for now. There's some triggers that I'll show later. But first, I'm just going to get a basic setup of some sound. So I'll start just turning faders and stuff. I'm going to start with my overheads on the side. All right. Hi-hat, take it down, ride for now, don't eat it. Okay. I have some 1, 2, 3, 4 snare mics, and if I remember correctly, I think there was a, God knows what that one was. Actually, I don't remember correctly. So let's take a look, see what that was. This button, right. So we had a condenser, all right. This is something else, that's a gate trigger, that's to open and close gates. But I had a condenser, a Buyer 201, an SM57, and the bottom, good question, probably SM7, but I do not remember, and it's completely irrelevant. These are all bussed into a group as well. Again, that's kind of irrelevant for the moment too, so. All right, I hear my drums. No, I don't need much of that yet. But now I'm at the point where I say, it sounds like a drum kit. Okay, good. Let's turn on some bass, see what that sounds like. That sounds loud, so. I've got these two routed into a group. All right, those are there. We hear it. That's fine. So let me explain these guitars. It looks like a whole bunch, but it's actually just two guitars. What we have here is when Gus played in his guitars, he did, typical left and right. But there was two amplifiers. There was a Black Star and there was a 5150 EVH. Every mic was tracked. It was not mixed together, which is something I requested at that point. But there is nothing wrong with, if you like your sound, just record it to 2 tracks, that's fine. However, we don't have that. We have Black Star amps. We've got 2 421s and 2 SM57s. So this is what the Black Star sounds like, and I've panned these hard left, hard right, bust them into this one group, which in turn goes to a main guitar or master guitar group, which I'll explain as well. So. All right, and our EVH guitars, which are also panned completely left and right, nice and wide. No secrets there. Very loud. Let's turn them down. As far as the level of these guitars, if if I remember right, the Black Stars, yes, they are basically all the same level. The 421 and SM57 are exactly the same level in volume. The EVH guitars are almost the same. There's a little difference, but more or less they are the same. So that doesn't really matter. Good. I'm just going to leave those on too. Okay, I hear something. Next up is some crunch guitars. What are they doing? I've also got these grouped, again, 421s, SM57s, pan full left and right. These are called Black Star overdubs. That doesn't mean bullshit, that means Black Star. Okay, that's what those are doing. And now we've got the bridge guitars. These are from the demo. All right, I hear them. Fine, good. And then we've got a whole bunch of solo stuff that I'm just gonna activate and hope I hear everything that I need to hear. So I'm being asked here if I can explain how I did the miking for the amp. No, I can't, because I didn't do it. Gus recorded these guitars in Saloniki while I was working here at HOFA. And we just worked, you know, by exchanging files and try stuff out until we were all pretty much happy. I have no idea exactly where the mic placement was. I only know that he used Black Star cabinets, 2 as a matter of fact, I think, and 1 Black Star head and 1 EVH 5150 head. I don't know if it's the 50 watt or the 100 watt, I really don't know. And everything was split and recorded to its own tracks. So I wish I could tell you more, but I really can't. So anyway, back to our rough mix. Yep, nice and loud. That's the way Gus wants it. I'm gonna pull it down just for convenience. Like I said, I just want to hear stuff now. I am just making a linear standing mix. Keyboards, I can probably turn those down now because they're not that important. So. Okay, we hear stuff. Good. Vocals. We have lead and we have choir vocals. Now, I have grouped these last few tracks into a bus, and everything else is quite simply just standing there on its own, going into a master group. Something that I'd like to explain now is I've made master groups for each instrument group. So here's the drums. It's like a master volume for each single group. The bass, the guitars, the overdub guitars, keys, vocals, backing vocals, and effects. The reason I want to point this out is that I usually never mix in the box out of a 2-bus. I don't enjoy it. I like using outboard gear still, analog outboard gear, and I usually sum 10 stereo pairs. I usually have 2 or 3 buses for the drums, 1 for the bass, which I also use as an auxiliary. That means I'll send some stuff into the bass group as well. Sometimes not, but more or less like this in the analog world. The other reason I'm doing that is so that I have headroom control. I can, here I've made all my groups minus 3 dB in the output so that I can be sure that I am at no point clipping my signal, which we'll see here. It looks pretty safe. That's good. Let me get back to these vocals here. I'm going to turn this down a bit. And these all go together. And I can group them and turn them all down as well. Right, so once I've got everything on, I'm gonna just play until, let's say, I guess the first chorus, and I'm gonna put it in a loop, just so that I can have a few passes, get a feel for the song, and start checking my situation as I go. Okay, just to save some time, I'm gonna say that I've got my rough mix going. I've listened to the song a few times. I kind of know what it's all about. So now I want to get right into it. And that would probably be the drums, but only partially. I'm kind of big on working on vocals, actually. I find that a lot of people sort of get their instruments going, and then they turn the vocal and think it's way too big, it's way too small, and start messing up the vocal sound to make it fit into the mix that they've made already. So I would prefer to actually start on the vocals in this case. And when I listen to it in this rough mix, destination with no return, our worlds collide, the night crash and burn. Okay, I've got a few things going on. Vacations are often told. Now, what I want to start with is adding a little bit of grit to my vocals. Now, this is a nice little plugin from Sound Toys. It makes compression, saturation, and all kinds of noisy noises that I like. I'm going to start by turning it on. With no return, my worlds collide, then I crash and burn, though fabrications are often... Besides it making louder, it also, compresses it a tiny bit and gives it this dirt that I really want in my not so dirty voice. So I'm going to give a little bit of EQ and stuff now. Depending on how it's going to be in the mix. Let's see. A destination with no return. My worlds collide, then I crash and burn. Though fabrications are often told, I'll spread the truth and I'll break the mold. I can see. I saw that I only have a little dip around 6K, probably because it's a bit aggressive up there, and I really haven't done anything more than just cut a little bit of the low end off, and I did a tiny dip, not even 1 dB at 200 hertz, so but that's fine for me. Judging by my headphones, I'm pretty content with that. So other than a tiny boost up there, which I don't even know if I need, I really think it's fine the way it is. Somebody's actually just asking me, what headphones do I use? I never use headphones. I hate headphones. I really kind of feel kind of silly here, sitting here mixing on headphones, because I detest mixing on headphones. it's almost impossible to get absolute relations between levels and frequencies because your ears get tired quickly with headphones. They compress sound. That means you don't really hear power that you're creating or not creating. These are, however, Ultrasone Pro 750. I was referred to using these by someone I know, and they're nice. You know, I've been wearing them for what? No, 25 minutes, and I'm sick of them already. But that's life. I can't emphasize enough, headphones are not a really great idea to use when you're mixing. It's not very... Sure, you can hear everything, but you don't really hear everything. It's hard to explain. Relations never work out the way I want them to, and a couple times that I've tried it, I've went and listened to my car or in my studio and realized, oh boy, okay. But that doesn't matter for now. We only have this possibility, so I'm mixing on headphones. Back to the lead vocals.
A destination with no return. My worlds collide, then I crash and burn. Though fabrications are often told, I'll spread the truth.
Okay, I've boosted here around 9K. I like what it's doing to bring this focus on the high frequencies out, but of course I'm hearing some really mean sibilances that I want to get rid of too. Actually, they're not that bad, but I want to be careful. But before I do that, I'm also going to end my chain with a little bit of a limiter, just to make it, these not tough sound vocals, you know, sit a little bit more flat in the mix.
Destination with no return. My worlds collide, then I crash and burn.
I also push the S's back a tiny bit. You see, I'm just limiting the very, very peaks, and that's it. By the way, I think I'm using a little bit of compression on this channel here. This is the, I think the old, yeah, the 4000E from Plugin Alliance. Great plugin. I'm a big SSL fan, and this is doing exactly what I wanted to do.
Destination with...
So I am using, on a fast attack and a relatively slow release, a bit of compression at 5U1.
With no return, my worlds collide.
That thing says it's compressing about 6 dB. My ears tell me something else, but that doesn't matter. So, what's this? Oh yeah, that's my de-esser. This is the de-esser I'm using on the vocals.
Destination with no return.
And I've also got a shelf boost. That's why I thought the vocals could be a little bit brighter. I'm going to take that brightness back out of the vocals and use this.
My worlds collide, then I crash and burn. Though fabrications are often told, I'll spread the truth.
Okay, I got that on. That's fine for me. So now I'm actually going to turn off my other vocals for now. They don't matter at this point. I just want to hear my lead voice almost all the time as I'm working. So let's start here with the drums now. This is what we got. If I listen to this room in solo, this is a mono room. This room was placed out in the hallway, far away. It's got a lot of delay. It's, if you can see here, it's really late compared to the other signals. Something else I can point out now, I lay my tracks out a lot differently than I think some people do when it comes to mixing. I usually see people start with kick, snare, hi-hat, and toms and something like that. Since the last 25 years, since I've been working in the digital domain, and that we have, you know, I've got to look at this stuff, and I've always been wanting to compare my transients and stuff like that. I've decided for myself that it makes more sense for me to start with the microphones that are farthest away from the drum kit first. In this case, it's this room mono, and then there's a room far, overheads back, overhead side, hi-hat ride, and so forth and so on. And you can actually see that it's being delayed as we go up. And then I go to the toms just because. Then the snare, and I end with the kick drum. So I'm doing everything backwards, right? Right, let's get back to this mono room. First thing, I see here that I've, on the EQ, I've got rid of a, looks like a resonance. I have to be totally honest, I don't hear it here in the headphones. I must have heard it somewhere else, but I don't hear it here. But often I will pull down the high end of the rooms, try to keep them warmer, in this case too. Often I would use a de-esser or something like that to also pull down the cymbals. De-esser is great in rooms if you want to keep your cymbals under control so that you can compress the rooms without your cymbals blowing your head off. I've got a gate that I'm going to explain as well in a second. And again, this double lock. I'm going to turn the gate off for now. I love this double lock for distortions. It's just what the doctor ordered. I'm making it a little bit grittier. Everything's set very, very low. And in the mix, just using a tiny bit. I like this darkness feature because I want to, cut the highs a little bit here, a little bit more. And this is doing exactly what I wanted to do. So now I've got a gate here. I'm going to explain this. This is something I always do very early in my mix. I have here a track that's called Snare Trigger Gate. I'll do this for my kick and snare, sometimes toms too. And that is I will gate, if you hear here, a rendered track where the snare is gated with about 2 to 3 milliseconds before the actual transients, and it's clean. Everywhere else, once I've got it all pretty gated, I'll render it to one file, and you'll see it's very clean in between. I don't use this track for sound. That's what I want to be clear of. I don't use it for sound. This track is going to open gates all over the place. Where? Well, it's going to open up gates to all my mics on the snares. I can gate them, control them as I want, and I'm going to open up, in this case, a room. So I've got this gate that's going to be sidechained by that snare. My gate is in the wrong computer. Here we go. And it ain't working because I don't know. Why are you not working? Maybe, because I haven't turned them all on. So if I go back to my track here and activate all my sends, I thought I could activate them all with that one knob, but I guess it doesn't want to. So all I'm doing here is telling this thing to keep the signal open. Well, it's not open. It's actually reducing 8 dBs, and with every snare hit, it's opening it up 8 dBs more. So I have a little bit more pump or dynamic on this room. Something I like to do a lot, and that's not only with this room, but I'll do this with quite a few rooms. Next up is our room FAR. Now, the first thing I know on this is it's very, very, very wide. Oh, before I get to that, I got a question. The signal looks to be hot. Oh, it looks to be hot. Is that how you do levels? No, it looks to be hot because I did this. So I do this a lot. I will turn up my waveforms so I can just see what the hell I'm doing, because I'm old and I got old eyes. So I don't record hot. I like 5 to 10 dBs headroom. Sometimes with the kick and snare, I'll have 3 to 4, maybe a little less, but I like having enough headroom. So if you look at my tracks like this, I have headroom. I do not like squashing my tracks. I do not like recording hot. There is no point. It only messes up your gain staging later, so I don't do that. So don't look at this. It's irrelevant at the moment, okay? Good. I know some people say, oh, you got to fill your bits up to get more sound going. Whatever. So back to my room. I see I have a EQ. Oh, I've reversed my phase on it too. Somewhere there was a phase issue going on somewhere. Let's see what it sounds like when I turn this on. Okay, it's getting rid of a few resonances. I hear them there too. Not a big deal. What have I got going on here? Oh yeah. Well, like I said, these rooms are very wide. I think the mics are placed like 4 to 5 meters apart. They're really, really wide. That's much too wide. If I listen like this, it's spread out. It's just too much for me. And I could, first of all, use a different kind of a panner here and just combine it there and make it smaller. But I'm using this plugin to take care of that for a couple of reasons. Well, for a start, what I like is I can pull in the stereo width, and I really want my bottom to be tighter. So I'm going to make my bottom tight almost up to 200 hertz. As you can see, that sounds a bit more real, and it's not so out of this world. Overheads, what I got going on here. Oh, there's another resonance there that I've taken care of. And I've just tilted a little bit of the low frequencies in 2 spots. Not a whole lot. Have I got anything on the inserts? Let's see. Oh, I do. What have I got there? Okay, I have an EQ. I have dipped around 200 a tiny bit, made it a little bit brighter, and taken off around 360. See what that does. Just made them nice and thin. We'll leave that for now. We'll see what that sounds like later. Overhead sides. Now these are left and right of the drums. What have I done? What have I done? I have shelved off a little bit of the low end, around 200 hertz, around 511. I remember this. I was having a lot of resonances around 500 hertz, and I've taken out a bit there. And I've dipped a tiny bit around 2.3 for God knows what reason. But let's see what it sounds like with and without that EQ. Okay. Okay, it doesn't matter at the moment, but I did that, and I stand to it. Right. What did I do here? Oh, it doesn't look like I did much. Probably because I reset it. Yeah. Anyway, so it's similar here, overheads. I like this plugin very much. My stereo width on the side, again, this is left and right of my drums, very, very wide. I don't like things that wide. That's unrealistic. Nobody listens to music, that wide. I mean, maybe you do with one speaker over there and one over there, but it's not fun. So your ears only actually capture the sound between the space of your head, that distance, and not really, really wide. It's not really comfortable. So I'm taking it in a little bit. And here as well, I'm going to mono the low frequencies till about almost 200 hertz. Now you can see the snare bottom, the pop of the low end is a bit more centered, and that's what I want. I want the snare to sound more centered and not wide. That's what we got effects and room for. They'll take care of all that. What else have I done here? Oh, I've used a little bit of a tilt EQ. I've tilted it to the right, making it a little bit brighter and less bassy. See what that does. The difference is subtle, but I guess I found it important to do that, so I did it. What's up? I got a hi-hat, and let's see what I'm using. Oh, wow. That was a crash. Macs never crash, except this one. So now I've got to restart Cubase. That was fun. So we're going to take a short break while I start Cubase again. Anybody want to get the debate about Mac and PC now? What's better? Neither. They both crash just as well. One crashes this way, the other crashes that way. And when they crash, it's never fun. So now I've got to open a project. I just got to find it. I think it was this one. We'll find out in a second. I hope it auto-saved. Or we're back at square one. Okay, somebody's asking me, do I gain stage a signal to minus 18 RMS before each analog simulation plugin? No. Like I said, I keep a headroom going of about minus 5, minus 10 dB, depending. Oh, it did not save everything. So that's unfortunate here. So I can basically start again. Isn't that great? Maybe I should save more often. No, I do not gain stage minus 18 dB. I don't know why. I mean, if you start pushing things up that hard or that high, I just don't understand why anybody would do that. I understand that in the analog world, things work a bit differently, but these plugins are basically made to perform in this world with what you have. That means if you're using a compressor that's going to start reacting at minus 20 dB, you don't have to reduce the signal to make the threshold respond differently. You just turn down the threshold, and it's easy as that. And they don't simulate that much electronics. They really don't, even if they say they do. So I'm going back here and start turning my stuff on because, well, it was off. And I'm going to be clever about it and save it. Let's go back to my room. I remember here, I reduced my width, and I went almost up to 200 hertz. Mono, go back to my side here, which I did about the same. About to 200 and about there. Good. Hi-hat, what do we do in the hi-hat? This is where it crashed, but I'm just realizing, please don't crash. Okay, it didn't crash. This is an older plugin. I haven't had this mix open for a while. This is the first version of the SSL channel strip before version 6. This is version 5. Yeah, but it works fine too when it doesn't crash. Let's see what we got here. I don't hear a thing because I've turned it down. Okay. I've panned it a bit to the right. I always mix in listener perspective, not as a drummer. That means if the drummer is in front of me, his hi-hat's over there, his ride's over there, toms 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't like mixing it in the way of sitting behind the drums because I'm not a drummer. It doesn't matter to me. I'm a listener. And if I mix AC/DC, Angus is over there, Malcolm's over there. That's the way it is. Right. No big deal on the hi-hat, I think. Oh, actually, well, what I got here? Everything's on my other monitor. And again, I've taken a resonance down there. I wonder why. I hear almost no difference, but maybe that's the headphones. I must have heard a difference if I did that in the studio. So we'll assume that it makes a difference. Right? Right. What else did I have in that? I think nothing special. Oh, yes, I did. I had my SSL. What did I do? I made it a little bit harder. And I cut off some bottoms. Big deal. Okay, that's that. About this stage, I would listen, too, to see how things are sounding.
A destination with no return.
Okay. I want to try to speed this up a little bit, but it's not easy. What else have I used here? Oh, I've put on this SSL Air. Making it a little bit brighter. Not important. Ride. What have I done here? Again, a little bit of SSL. I don't think that's that interesting. I don't even know if I've used much of this ride. Did he play ride? Yeah, I've taken off some bottom. I've literally ripped off to 500 hertz, ripped it all off, dipped in a couple of places, added some there. Oh, there's a ride.
Now, so
Yeah, we'll see how we work that in. These three toms, I've got them all put into a group, and we can listen to those. Now, these are also pre-gated to a point, but I think I actually used a little bit more gate. Yes, I did. I did use more gate there to bring them down a little bit more, make them a little bit cleaner. Let me just check this again. Let me turn these on. Okay, so I've got these all grouped together, like I said, and I'm going to start off with this reverb that I've got here. It's a very small amount of reverb. I remember I didn't need much. I've got my rooms going on, my real rooms. What else did I do? Some earth and air plugins from Slate, and a little bit of compression, which, oh, it's not even on. Probably didn't even need it. Okay, I guess I didn't need it. And then again, my favorite here, the Devil Lock. Very lightly, gives a bit of smack and sustain. And then, something I'm a big fan of, multi-band compression on toms. The reason I do this, I usually just use 3 bands, and I use it like an EQ. That means I can take up here, take down there, take up there, whatever I want to do. I'm a big fan of multi-band on guitars too sometimes, not all the time, but yeah, that's what we got. This was our tom before. This is a tom after. See what it sounds like in the mix.
the situation changes once again, and the curtain call is near.
All right, that sounds fine. What else is going on here? So my, that's my send to all my gates. Oh yeah, right. I need to keep that open. This is just sending impulses to open up gates all over the place. Like here on all my snare tracks, I have this valley. What's this thing? Why does it look so strange? Oh, wow, look, my GUI is tiny. Mac. Why is it doing that? Jesus Christ. I'm afraid to adjust it. For some reason, it's red, and maybe I need an update. I don't know. Okay. Whatever. So I've got these all gated with the Valley Dynamite. Well, that's what we're going to call it. It's a dynamic something thingy. Yeah. Like I said, I got 4 mics. I've decided to combine them in this order. Now my mixing board is on the wrong place. So the snare top, this first one is a condenser. I'm using this because it's got, you know, just a bit of more transients, faster transients. And then the Beyer 201, if I remember right. Yes, the 201. That has a lot of bottom and smack, and the 57 is a classic one. So I'm using that the most. I've got them all grouped into this one group, right? Oops, I've just erased my thing. What have we got going on there? I have more Slate stuff. Let's see what I got here. I'm using, similar to the toms, earth and air, a little bit of bottom, a little bit of tops, and compression. This earth thing makes a lot of great body on the bottom of the snare. I like it a lot. So, I don't remember using this thing, but I guess I did. So I'm putting a little bit of smack in that snare with the transients designer from Waves. So don't do that. And then I'm finishing up with a 4000E channel strip. So I've shelved here at 1.5, 5 dB. I'm bringing up the stick. I want more stick and I want brightness. I've also scooped around 600 hertz. And well, that's basically it. A little bit of compression, just because I like the way the SSL compression sounds. Okay. So that was what we had. Okay. Well, I've also set up here a non-linear and a snare hall, which I've also gated, by the way. I'm gated it and I'm triggering it with the snare. And we can see what the snare sounds like with a bit of that reverb on there.
So I gave it a shot.
Sounds like nothing. Why does it sound like, because I haven't done this. No, there's nothing coming out. Why that? Have I turned this on? Okay, that's not doing what it should do. So, there we go. I don't use too much reverb on the real snare. I usually do some, like my gate on the room, I might add something to there, but in this case, I just needed a tiny bit. I like using a non-linear, well, this is just a sample actually. This is from the HOFA IQ reverb. What am I using? Bright Church, huge Bright Church, and then I've done, I don't know, God knows. And then on the snare reverb, I'm using, what am I using? Oh, I put something before the reverb to make a little bit of sound, like an EQ and saturation. And I'm using the Lex. Oh, and that was another crash of Cubase. Great stuff. Wonderful. So we'll be taking a break in about 8 minutes anyway. And that'll be it for the YouTube presentation. And we'll continue on the HOFA campus for all those that are registered on the HOFA campus. I'm real sorry about this Cubase crashing crap, but I don't know what to tell you. This is what Cubase seems to be wanting to do these days. Maybe I'm just overworking it, which I find hard to believe. So as we wait, we wait. And because it's a big project, it takes a couple minutes to start up too. Well, there's that. Let's see what we've lost. Hopefully not everything. Okay, I wanted to show my snare reverb. I'm using a short plate. Yeah, and then I'm gating it a bit as well to make, just to reduce the sustain of the snare, because I don't find it to be important in this song.
I can see.
All right, let's turn off that vocal. All right, that's fine for me for now. Kick drum. So first of all, I've got this kick here. Again, this is a overly gated kick drum. And again, I'm just using the pulse. In this case, it doesn't have to do a lot. I probably wouldn't even had to have done this, but I just do it all the time as default. But I'm using it to trigger my gate on this kick. If I don't open it up, it won't work. So I don't know what's wrong here. That's strange. Got to click it twice. Okay, good to know. So Just closing it to have total control. Kick FET mic. I love these mics. This is just a distorted bass drum mic. I just like the way it makes the meat and potatoes. Love it. Then we got a sub, which is my 10-inch Celestion bass speaker in front of the kick drum. I also gated that a tiny bit too. And this channel is controlling all these gates that I have on all of these kicks. All right, that's that so far. Get to these guitars. Oh no, I need to get to the bass, don't I? The most important thing in every song. So, let's start with the DI. I am usually, not always, but usually, trying to get the dynamic of the DI to match the amp, because in this case I'm using a driven amp. I mean, it's distorting, driven. So I like doing things like this. Here's a preamp simulator. Without, with, and I'm using this to cut my peaks, almost like a limiter, and just to bring out some harmonics and just to smush the DI a little bit. Keep in mind, for this metal song, I want it to be metal. I'm using a limiter after, just to get rid of some peaks that I don't want to hear, because I want mainly the amp. I'm just using this to get a little bit of low end, so to say. Then I've got this 4000. I'm boosting the hell out of, where am I at? About 80 hertz. I'm boosting 8.5 dB and actually cutting around 30. I want the DI to give me bottom. I've cut the tops and a little bit of mids, but basically, I want to compress a little bit more too. I just want this to control the bottom end. The amp, what have I done here in the amp? Okay. Well, first of all, I've used in phase to correct the phase a bit. Not going to get into that. I will make a video about that another time to correlate the bass, DI, and amp as well as possible. And then I have another. Here I've just brought out the high mids a bit more, about 1.5 to 2K. And I think that's basically it. That's literally all I've done. And I'm using that plugin. Okay, keep in mind, yes I am. I'm using this THD, the Total Harmonic Distortion. I'm turning it up, I'm driving it a bit. I like that knob very, very much. I like the way it gives this grit, you know, for metal. It's very cool. So, these two signals combined. And now I'm going to use a master multi-band compression just to tame everything down. Using this to keep my low end nice and sustained and in front. Cool, that's doing what I want. So, it's time to take a short break. So we're going to do that now. Whoever's going to continue joining us, stay tuned. We're just going to make a 10-minute or 5-minute break or something like that, and we'll keep going in a few. So we'll be back with metal guitars in just a bit.